right, my friends, it is time for yet another episode of Next Up with Nicole. I'm your host, Nicole Ryan. My co-host and EP, Sarah Nekich, is here. Hello, my love.
Hello, hello.
And we are lucky enough to finally be joined by Sarah Kinsley. How are you?
Oh my God, thank you. I'm so good. I'm so great.
Now, I say finally because behind the scenes, we have wanted Sarah for a while now, and it was just such back and forth, and we stuck to it because we were just feeling like we needed to make it happen. And we're so happy that we finally made it happen because you're so talented and we've been watching you and we're so excited for all your success.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so happy it finally came together. It's
Absolutely. Great. So why don't we just take it back to the beginning? Let's just go all the way back, rewind, and just tell us a little bit about like your childhood and where you grew up and how music became, a big part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had like the very typical like Asian American household experience of like learning classical music growing up, which is like definitely a staple of many people's childhoods. But yeah, I mean, my parents are music lovers. They love classical music so much that they wanted their kids to learn it so that they could just play it at home for free. And my brother and I like grew up playing piano and violin and cello and viola, and like I loved classical music as a kid. And as like tough as it was to go through all the like discipline of things and learn theory and really boring things, I just loved it. I love listening to it still. And that was like my sort of slow introduction into music, was like a really technical, very heavy, very strict dogma of like, this is what music is, this is how music sounds, this is what happy music sounds like, this is what sad music sounds like. And I learned about like the history of a lot of composers. There's a lot of like Western music, to be fair. And I did that like all throughout my childhood, like my middle school, my high school, like all of my after school out of studying activities were like playing in orchestras, playing in ensembles with people. And then as I got older and into high school, I got really interested in singing, and like I loved writing music and writing poetry. And I went home like to my parents' house a few weeks ago, and I found like this old journal I kept when I was like 10, and the poems,
oh my God, what does that look like?
They're so bad. The one of the songs was like, it's really funny. It's this like bright pink journal that has like a musical note on it, and it's like one of the first songs I wrote was like invisible, and it was like
so deep and dark.
Oh, I know. It was like my great achievement. It's so funny. It's just like the words barely rhyme. Like it's really obvious that I was using like one of those like rhyming websites.
Yeah.
Like, I'm invisible and you make me like divisible or something really stupid and like so melodramatic. But yeah, I got really into songwriting, and I was really I did not like singing in front of people. Like I refused to do it, which was a problem. But I got really into singing and sort of moving away from classical music. And there was this period of my life where there was like a lot of dissonance kind of between the two parts of my life. Because one part of me was like, I love that I've been lucky enough to study this and grow up with this music, but I don't like the way it makes me feel constrained, or I don't like what I'm studying, or maybe I just want to feel something new. And that was really happening when I was like between, I guess, like 16 and 18. And I started really writing music and then coming to college and wanting to produce and go into that. So yeah, that was like the early days.
Because it was not like pushed upon you, but it was sort of like, this is what we're going to do, Sarah. And that, your parents were sort of, would you say that, where you are now was sort of like a rebellion, or were you ever like rebellious about like, I don't want to do this. This is not what I want to do, when you were younger and you were first starting?
I think like, I wouldn't say rebellious, because honestly, I feel like even though I feel like I've been writing like pop rock or indie rock, like I didn't really have like the grungy phase of like, I'm not going to do this, like going against my parents. Like I feel like I was pretty tame about like, I really love this. And it was more of like a slow burn into like, I just don't like the thing that I'm studying. I don't agree with the discipline, or I don't like, it was a really slow way of learning. Like this history that I've been taught is like super it's super one-sided, and it's a very specific type of music. And I think I was just honestly ready for something new. But I mean, all that being said, like I still listen to the music, and I feel like it's definitely permeated a lot of like what I talk about and the
Of
production.
course.
Yeah, so
Of course.
it's definitely very inseparable, as much as,
Yeah.
you know, you
Like
don't want it to
ingrained in
be.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Right. I actually went to school for classical music as well. I studied
No
classical
way.
Yeah.
opera. Yeah. But
No way.
Yeah.
yes,
Cool.
I don't exactly look like I could sing you an aria, but I promise you I
No,
can.
that's not what I mean. I think it's just like you don't hear about people, like especially opera. Like I've been to like maybe 2 operas in my life, and it just, I think because it feels so antiquated, it's like so rare to be like, wait, people are still like
Yeah.
doing this and studying it.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was a good time, but I also agree with the whole like constraint to classical learning and like theory and all that. It's really hard to kind of get out of that box and be creative. And I feel like
Yeah.
listening to your music is incredibly creative, especially with all the sounds you use. Like,
Oh,
how
thank
was
you.
it trying to get out of that box of I'm a classical
Yeah.
musician, I want to do something else?
I think it came really naturally, but yeah, I think a lot of the whole debate about like whether classical music will live is so fascinating, because I think when I was getting older and like learning, especially about like women in classical music, I had a really tough time like pulling apart the music I loved from like how they treated their wives, or like how women
Mm,
composers were treated for a very long time, and the sort of bars to entry for women for like honestly a really like a crazy amount of time. I mean, I think a lot of people in music are still like we're still having the conversations about, you know, producers who are not men, or all these things, and about like opening the doors. But like with classical music, that just, it went on for so much longer than, you know, so our perspective is really different. But I get what you mean also about like, yeah, the constraint is fascinating. But I think yeah, like moving away from it and trying to be more creative, it felt really natural, honestly, when I think about it now, because um I just loved pop music too when I was growing up. Like I'm not ashamed to say that I listened to like the top 100 when I was like 12, and I loved Taylor Swift. Or I like my first concert was like, my parents were huge ABBA fans, and my very first concert at like the age of 10 was like an ABBA impersonation concert.
That's
I love
amazing.
that.
Like, I was like, I can't believe they're still alive, and they look as good as they did in the 70s. Like this is crazy. And I was like 10, so but it was great. And that was like my first concert ever. It was like this ABBA cover band who dressed up like them. So I
Wow.
like loved like 80s music and 70s music growing up. So it wasn't like my life was like siphoned off between
Right.
like you are this
Right.
person and now you want to be this. It was very organic, and which I'm really grateful for. But yeah, it was more of just like, as I got older, I just started listening to more and more of the radio, and then discovering smaller artists, and then falling in love with them, and then kind of like prioritizing and pushing some things to the side, and just saying like, this music honestly fascinates me more, and I think it's just as intriguing and just as intellectually brilliant as like a symphony, you know, like there's nothing that's better or worse between these two types of form and genre. So yeah, it happened really naturally. I kind of just like fell in love with another thing. I was like having an affair with 2 different genres of music. It was
Oh, I
great.
love the way
Yeah.
you said that. That's such a cool way to put it.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
But
the radio station I'm on is a pop station, so you'll have to come hang out. I mean,
yeah.
I live and breathe pop as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, I know your song "The King" initially went viral after the TikTok that you made.
Mhm.
Could you ever have predicted that the role of social media would have, you know, with your rise?
I like I would say like yes, retrospectively, but that's so much easier to say in retrospect, you know, like everything is somewhat clear, like everything makes sense from when we're looking at it from the future. But honestly, in the moment, no, like I didn't really use social media that much. Like I posted
Mm.
maybe covers of songs in high school. I promoted my music on there when I was like making my very first EP in 20 between like 2019 and 2020. But yeah, like the explosion of the King was really just not something that I expected at all, mostly because like I didn't really believe in the power of TikTok in that way, because that was still at the beginning when like TikTok was making songs famous through like dances or different
Yeah.
different modes of like getting a song to rise to virality. And so I didn't really believe that that was a way of getting music to people, because for my whole life, including classical and in everything that I'd been taught about how music was made, it was slow. It was artists made music and they worked for years and years to get a spot where people would just listen, and it was like the first EP I made too, I was doing everything on my own, where I was just begging playlist curators and writers to just listen to like 30 seconds of my music. And even after that, it was like, well, we're still not going to write about this, or we're not going to, have the time to really talk about this thing. And so because of all of that, and because of the way I was conditioned to think like, well, things don't happen overnight, especially not in music. And that when it happened like last year, it just completely changed my mind about the way things worked. And it was very overwhelming, and it was kind of terrifying, because all of a sudden it was like, people want to know what you're talking about. People want to know, like,
and feel like you owe them, like they are, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I know, yeah, but I'm not like, I'm so grateful for that. I think it was more so just like the sheer force of like, I felt so detached from my persona on my phone that it felt like I was just becoming like two different people. Of like, my life hasn't changed at all. I was living at my parents' home, and I was like doing all these things, and just like trying to get by and make music and live with my family. But it was like my life had exploded so much otherwise, that it just felt like I was living two very, very separate lives. So that was mostly like why it was so overwhelming, I think.
I feel like that's very much a shared experience between all the artists that we've spoken to and that I've ever spoken to during my career, when it comes to like that social media explosion. It's just, it happens so fast. It's so viral. It catches on like wildfire. And the ability to have instant gratification on something like TikTok makes it that the intensity is just otherworldly, and I just feel like it can be terrifying for the artist, is, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, you wanted to make beautiful music, but you didn't expect this,
Yeah, I think also like it's really tough to sort of feel the presence of like what's really going on, because it's just numbers. Like it's artificial, and it doesn't really exist beyond this platform. And so like when you're walking around and reading the news or going to get coffee and just doing things that you'd normally do, it's like so weird to remember that like your whole life has changed, and that like there's people who are going throughout their daily lives thinking about this music now. Like I think that was a really weird realization too, is that these numbers they're not numbers. Like they're people with minds, and people who are living with the music and kind of breathing alongside it and turning it into an entirely new thing. So that was definitely like a equally terrifying but very beautiful experience to go through.
So your sound is, sort of a blend of original sounds and synths and classical music. Who were some of your musical inspirations? Like, who inspired your sound?
This is so tough. It's changed a lot since I made like my last two EPs. I think with The King, I was really pulling from 70s music. Like my dad has a bunch of cassettes at home, and we got this really cool record player that would let you also play cassettes. And so we were just like rummaging through the basement one day in the attic, and we found this like dusty black box and this bag inside with like a bunch of random cassettes. He had like Fleetwood Mac, like the Carpenters, and then like Madonna and Selena. And I was like, Dad, you're so cool. And we just listened to them like all throughout COVID. And so the King EP was like I was really drawing from like sort of like the indie rock and indie pop that comes like that's kind of melted off from 70s rock, like Fleetwood Mac. I really just like went into a phase again where I was like listening to their music via albums again, which is like something I hadn't really done since.
Who does that these days?
I mean, I think a
No,
lot
I
of
know.
people do, but we just need to do it more. Like
I
think
agree with you.
it's
I
harder,
agree.
you know, like definitely streaming platforms have made it a bit harder to enjoy albums in their entirety. But yeah, I like fell back in love with like some of their less popular albums. I was listening to like a ton of Kate Bush and just like all these like Cocteau Twins. I was like, oh my God, I listened to like this one album they have for like maybe like 60 days straight. Like I just didn't really listen to anything else. So I was
Wait, so
really
do you mean
influenced by that.
that you actually were getting back into Kate Bush before Stranger Things season 4 happened?
Yeah, I feel so silly like saying that, but yes, I mean, I literally wrote about her like influence on my music like 2 years ago, and I'm so happy
Wow.
that people are appreciating her again. I just hope they listen to more than Running Up That Hill, because her music is just it's just divine. She's a genius and also a great producer. Like, oh my God, just a genius. But yeah, so that was definitely what I was listening to. But I think now, like, it's so hard to say like biggest inspirations, because I just feel like a lot of my taste and like what my acquired taste of like who I listen to on a daily basis isn't so much one album at a time. It's just like a lot big like variation, this big like melting pot of a lot of different songs that I have fallen in love with. But yeah, I've recently been listening to Sasami's new album called Squeeze, and I just think like she is a lyrical goddess, and it's like one of those things where I'm like, I wish I'd written this song, and like it makes me so mad. But I'm very grateful for that album.
I
It's
love it.
it's very cool. But yeah.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. All right, so we want to play a little game with you. We always like to have a little bit of fun. Not that we're not already having a blast, because you're amazing.
Okay.
But I love that you like to sample just random sounds, right? Like you like to like sort of sample like a wine glass clinking or a door knocking, or like that type of thing. Like if you've watched you on TikTok, and it's fascinating. It's like very Charlie Puth of you. But it's unbelievable how, I mean, he's somebody I mean, I know personally, and I was like, what is he doing? But it's just unbelievable how genius it is that you can just use everyday sounds to help make your music. So we've got a series of sounds we're going to play with you, and we just need to see if you can guess what the sound is. Super basic sounds. So we just want to know if you can guess.
Okay.
We don't have any prizes. We don't have any prizes.
There's no incentive for me to
There's
do
no
this.
it's all for bragging rights. There's your incentive.
I was really competitive as a kid. So
okay, so let's do this.
I'm nervous.
All right.
Okay, let's get the first
Let's
sound.
go. All right. Hopefully you guys can hear this.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm gonna guess like an accordion.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Coming out with a bang.
100%.
Okay.
That was an accordion.
All right.
I love accordions. They're
Yeah,
so
right.
cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you play the accordion? I've never even held one.
I wish. I love the action of it. It's just like not like anything else, and it's very romantic. I just think of like 90s like rom-com travel movies. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But yeah.
Summers in Italy,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. People like dancing in a square. It's like very, very cute.
I love it. All right, so on to our next sound. Let's go, Sarah.
Okay.
All right.
We can play it again if you need the sound over
like
again.
a toilet flushing. What is?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, some of these are
God.
household sounds. They're not all just instruments.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
That was amazing. Okay.
Wow.
This next one is probably one of my favorites, something that I actually use to fall asleep.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is very nice. It's very like ASMR-y, I understand. Like that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I don't know if it's like rainwater or like
Of
a faucet.
course, it's rain. Of
Yes,
course.
it is
No.
rain.
Of course, you know. Yeah, I mean, sometimes people like the white noise. I like the sound of like the running water. There's nothing better than
Really?
sleeping when it's dark and rainy out. It's like the
That's
best.
fascinating. I can't listen to like anything.
Really?
If I want to focus or like fall asleep, yeah, it just has to be silent. It's
Okay.
crazy.
All right. I mean, you're dominating this, by the way. So
Thank
you're
you.
halfway through and you've got 3 for 3. Let's go on to our next sound.
Okay. Oh. Oh my God, wait. I feel like I know what the thing is called, but it's on the tip of my tongue and I don't. I literally don't know what it's
Okay.
called.
How about we give you a category? It's an animal. It's
I was
an-
gonna say like a hairbrush, never
No.
mind.
no, it's an animal making a sound. Does that help at all?
Oh,
She's like,
yeah, that's fascinating. Is it like a forest, like a jungle creature?
Yep.
Is that
Yeah.
a toad? Like a
God,
frog?
are you serious?
Yes. It was like a tree frog to be exact. But
Yeah.
Whoa, okay.
Same
Well,
thing.
I don't think we should give me points for that because
No.
I fully thought it was like someone running a finger on like a thing with ridges. That's what it's
Oh,
like a
you're going
comb.
deep.
That's kind of what it
Yeah.
sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got that.
It's a frog. Okay, maybe I'll
Yeah.
use that in my next
Oh, you
on
like
my
that.
next EP.
Nice. Do we get credit for that?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
tree
two-
frog sound.
2 more sounds. Go ahead.
All right.
Like basketball?
Yeah, girl.
Yep, yep.
Okay. You
Very
rock. Okay,
cool.
last one. Let's bring it on home, Sarah.
Okay.
All right.
I hope I get this. It's a clock. A grandfather.
No, but you know what? I didn't even think it could totally be
It's,
that.
Wait,
it sounds exactly like clock.
Wait.
But it's not.
Wait, go again. We'll give you
a
one more shot.
metronome.
Oh,
No.
wow, you're
A
way smarter than
metronome?
us. I don't even know
She
what a
was going
metronome
way
is.
classical music and that. You
Yeah.
don't know what a metronome is?
No. Should I?
Oh my god.
Is that
Yes.
silly?
Like
Okay.
a timer? Like what is it?
It's a
Car
car
blinker.
blinker.
A car blinker. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It's
See,
okay.
I don't drive that much in New York, so
All right.
I don't drive at all.
That's
actually.
fair.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Wow. You honestly don't. Well, look at her. She is competitive. You dominated that. You killed that. Come on. Very impressed.
Thank you.
I feel like you are queen of just sounds.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about your music. When you recorded your second EP, The King, during the pandemic, what was that writing process like versus your most recent EP?
Hmm.
Obviously, the pandemic was crazy for everybody and how they dealt with their personal lives or careers or,
Yeah.
relationships. What was that like? Or the difference between the two?
It's definitely still feels really crazy, even though things are kind of sort of like lifting up a bit and live
Mhm.
music is back. But I think the second EP, like the King EP, it was really fascinating because everything was recorded like when it could be recorded. It was kind of like, got to take these chances. I had like 2 days in the studio. I wasn't living in New York at the time. I was living at my parents' home, which was also very different. And a lot of the music that I wrote for the King EP, I was writing like on our childhood piano, the piano I'd basically grown up with. And that's like, as old as my brother and I. And so that connection was really different because I was writing from a very different place than really where I had grown up musically, which was in college and at school and around people who were not my family, but the sort of second family of like small college community of music. And I wrote that EP at home and I came into New York I would come in for like a few days at a time every so often. And I would see friends and I would go and work on music with friends. And then I met Jake Aaron, who I worked on the King with, and I would come in and we had like 2 days of like 10-hour sessions in his studio. And the whole process of the King was like, I think it was a lot more grounded in like trying to figure out who I was out of the pandemic and within being at home, because I was sleeping in the bed I had slept in when I was like between the ages of like 6 and 15. And
Yeah.
so it was a really weird place to be in, and to try and not feel so isolated all the time, and to feel like I was maybe going somewhere with my life. And so the King was like a lot more raw in that sense, because everything was sort of grounded in this kind of nature. But with Cypress, I made most of it like in my apartment in New York, like here. And I have my own tiny, I mean, calling it a studio is like, that's not the right word, because it's not big enough, but it's like a closet. And like I did everything here, and I was really experimenting a lot more with the production. And I was back here in New York with my friends and with you know, people I love. And it was very, very, very different, you know, because instead of being grounded in the place I grew up, I was kind of experimenting in this new place that I've only lived in for a few years. And you know, melding with sounds and trying to, you know, create something new that I could hide in my music. And also Cypress was just like so different, because the King had happened, you know, over the past year. And so I was still kind of reeling from the overwhelming effect of like the song and its virality and the way that it kind of took over my life. And Cypress was like just a musical and sonic exploration into, you know, do I really want this? Like, can I actually be an artist, not just for myself, but for people who listen to my music? Is this what I imagined? Is it what I wanted? And that was very different, I think, in that those kinds of themes, even though I'm talking about them now with such like a much sort of higher perspective, I think they kind of express themselves in really minute ways too. Because with Cypress, you know, it's really, there's a lot of doubt and wondering, like, musically, how do I live up to this moment that's happened? How do I become the thing that I'm supposed to be? Which is not the King necessarily, whatever that means, but something different, something new. And yeah, so those processes were like really, really different. And I love that they're separate from each other, because it makes me feel like they were just two very distinct chapters of my life.
I love that. And I do want to apologize that my phone just rang. I mean, honestly, I've been doing this for so many years, but I do need to share who called. You know, you get spam calls. It says the White House. That's what it said on my phone. The White House is calling. So really, I should have picked it up. But I mean, you're way more important than the White House.
Oh, thank you.
That is next level spam. I just wanted to make note.
Maybe it really is the White House. Yeah.
Please. They don't need anything from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
God.
Well, you make a lot of TikToks about these different sounds that you find in your apartment and around. How does that like work? Like, do you just like, you know, clink a spoon and you're like, oh, that would sound good? Like, I'm fascinated by how you discover these sounds. And one of my favorite TikToks is the contact mic you use to make those like synth noises. Like, I didn't even know that existed. Like, tell us a little bit about that and how that comes into play with your EP.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I think the beauty of discovery is that a lot of it is by accident, which is really exciting. And it means that like a lot of it is totally out of our creative control, which I love. But yeah, I think happy accidents are like the origin of a lot of things that I've used. Like in Cypress, for example, there's like the sound of glass breaking, and I didn't actually break glass. I just found the sample, but it's because I almost broke a glass, and I was like, I should use that in a song, but I don't really want to break one of my own glasses. But things like that, where it's like the sound has such rich quality when it's not something that we're used to hearing. Like, I think there's so much music out there that it's like really hard to differentiate yourself, the same way that it is for anything in art or any field, honestly. But I feel like when I'm listening for sounds, I've just, over the past few years, and I've been studying music still, like there's a really fun part of just still allowing yourself to be a child in some ways and enjoying the nuances of sound and not expecting yourself to find the next great synth. You know, there's so much music that's been made with these very expensive instruments and very high quality technology. But there's also really exciting music that's just made from people's closets and from people's bedroom frames or bed frames or tables, things like that. So I think I've just I feel like I've been learning over and over the past few years that like sound is just this endless thing. And there's so much, like though I can knock the table that I'm sitting on right now, and then you can knock yours. And they're such different sounds. And we'll still say it's a table knocking, but the depth of the sound and how hollow it is and what the table's made out of, like it sounds so silly, but it's so nuanced and it's so exciting to think about. And I get really excited thinking about it. But that excitement, I think, is a thing that I've been trying to nurture out again, because for so many years in music I was trying to find a great sound and trying to train myself, try and train the child kind of out of me of like, I need to just be listening for something good, when really I should just be like listening. Like I remember one of these classes I had in school, my professor had us find a location anywhere we wanted, in our apartments, outside, in the dorms, whatever, wherever we wanted, and to list 30 sounds, which sounds easy, but by the time you list 15, you really have to just like listen for the intricacies of where you are. And you just begin, your ear, it feels like your mind opens because you just start hearing everything. And since I took that class, like I'll be sitting at home. Like I remember I was woken up one morning by this very faint choir singing 2 streets down. And it was the most magical thing. And I literally whipped out my phone and I was like opening my window, trying to record it with my microphone. And I just things like that, or even nothing like as beautiful as that. Maybe that's too angelic, but things like sometimes like a piece of paper will fall out of a book and it makes this really beautiful wind-like sound. And it's so divine. And I think like we've been conditioned to, we're not supposed to hear everything, because if we stop to hear everything, we'd like get run over by cars. Like we need to pay attention, and it's like to survive. But also there is so much beauty in just hearing the things that we maybe don't want to listen to all the time. And that's really where I'm inspired, like in music, is saying like my furniture makes this really weird sound, or like someone I know does this really weird tapping thing, or my jewelry against a cup, I don't know, something like there's so much. And yeah, I love thinking about that. Like it really just makes me very like excited and satisfied at the same time.
I can tell.
Yeah.
I
love
totally
it.
can tell. Yeah, you
Yeah.
sound so inspired even when you're talking about it. Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite track on your new EP?
Oh yeah.
I know they're all like your babies, but
They
I mean,
are my babies. I think like Sarah, you're talking about the contact mic. Yeah, that I never went back to that point. But yeah, that like discovering that I could like use that against my voice was so just like opened such a new sonic atmosphere, where I was just amazed by what I sounded like through the mic. And then you can feed it into a software and manipulate it in real time. And so hearing the effects slightly delayed, it's like a really cool circular thing that happens. But my favorite track, I mean, partly because of the contact mic, I do really love Lucky Drive. I think that song is like, it's the last track of the EP, and it's the most experimental I've ever been in my music. And the lyrics are just, they're very ambiguous, but also very, very vulnerable and very raw. And it's basically about like unraveling yourself to another person and opening yourself up. And it was, I mean, I was really talking about one person and opening myself up to that person, but I think it is also a grander metaphor for how in music too, there's this impossible feeling where you get to unravel yourself to people and to unfold the sort of tendencies of what you do and what you write about. And it's just very delicate, the relationship that you can have, which can really be extended to anything. And so I love that track because it closes out the album, but it also feels like this gateway to the next thing. And it feels like this portal to whatever is really supposed to come next. So Lucky Drive is definitely up there. I do love all of them though. I
Right.
can't rank them. They are my
They're your-
children. Yeah.
I love it. All right. So you just started your first solo tour this summer. What's that been like? I know, Gatlin, I know she opened for you for a few dates. We actually
Yeah.
had Gallon. Was Gallon our first?
Gallon was the
Next up,
first.
She was our
Gallon's our
first
girlie.
next up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
So
way.
you're in good company. But how's it been?
I love Galen. That's crazy.
She's so cool.
She is so talented too, and I was really it was exciting to hear her music every night, and we would just be like backstage, like
Rock it
mouthing the
out.
words and getting excited. It's great. Yeah, we had her for most of the dates, and then for our New York show, we had Genevieve Stokes open, which was awesome. The tour was, I mean, it was really short and sweet, which was great. And we went to like 6 cities, and it was so weird, honestly. I think because a lot of my growth as a musician has happened over the internet, I don't really feel like the physical change of what has happened, but like I remember in Chicago, this girl, like we were leaving the stage like right after the set ended, and this girl burst out through the door, and I was like, oh, what's happening? And she just runs up to me, she doesn't say anything, and she just pulls her shirt up, and she's got "I'm Not a Mountain" tattooed on her arm, and with like these little sparkles around it.
Did
And
you cry?
I had already seen the picture of it, but I'd never met her in person. And so I was just like tearing up, like, this is crazy. And she was like, the song, we were just like kind of like holding each other, like she was just telling me what the song means. And so it was very new for me to meet people in, flesh and bone, and to say like, to hear people say, this song means this to me, or these words, I have them saved with me. Like that was an experience that I didn't fully get, because you can read people's comments, you can respond to people's DMs and thank people, and I do feel really loved, and I'm very grateful for the messages people send me and the articles I read, the very nice things people have to say about my music. But none of that really compares to the sort of like meteor experience and the hearty ways that we just like talk to each other in person, and seeing people like moving, and like that's why I think it's the reason why most people write music, is to feel that energy, and to feel like the thing in the room is bigger than everyone there, including the artist. So yeah, the tour was like fantastic. My band is just like honestly my best friends. Like I love all 3 of them. So yeah, it was so much fun.
I love it. You are absolutely magnificent. I could listen to you talk forever. A couple times while you're talking to me, I realized I was like just zoning in, like listening to you. I was like, Nicole, make a nice face. You honestly are just such a treat to listen to, and you paint such beautiful pictures about, your music and about your experiences, and
Thank you.
it's just such a breath of fresh air. And we are so honored that you took the time to hang out with us on Next Up today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I really enjoyed the questions and the sample game.
Yeah, you killed it. You killed it.
Thank you.
You were very hard on yourself, but I thought you dominated it. All right.
I'll be better next time. Yeah.
I hope there is a next time.
Oh,
we
yeah.
absolutely love you, and we wish you all the success in the world. Sarah Kinsley,
Oh.
thank you so much for swinging by.
Oh, thank you so much.